From the mud to the rise, yeah, we built it on the grind. Trench talk, real talk, leave the fake ones behind. We don't fold, we don't break, every move we define. It's the code from the trenches where the real ones align.
Yo, what's cracking, YouTube? Today, we taking you straight to the heart of South Central LA, where the streets don't sleep and the beefs run deeper than the concrete. This is the saga of the Hoover criminals, LA's most hated, the squad that don't play by nobody's rules. It's Hoovers versus everyone, and if you ain't ready for the real, you better click off now. Let's get it. First off, you gotta know where this madness started. We talking South Central Los Angeles, 1960s, before the Crips, before the Bloods, before the city was carved up by colors and codes. Back then, the crew was called the Hoover Groovers, named after Hoover Street, running between Vermont and Figueroa. They was just a local set, deep in the neighborhood, looking out for their own and holding down their turf. But the streets was never quiet for long. The Hoover Groovers was already making noise before the Crips even existed, but everything changed after a tragedy. A founding member's little brother got murdered, and the blame pointed at the West Side Crips. Tensions was high, so the Hoovers and the West Side Crips met up at St. Andrew's Recreation Center to squash the beef. Instead, they found a new enemy, the Figueroa Boys. That night, the Figueroa Boys' leader got stomped out at a club, and an alliance was born. By the mid-1970s, the Hoovers dropped the Groover and started riding with the Crips, officially repping as Hoover Crips. But that alliance was shaky, the streets was split, Rolling 60s and 8-tray gangster Crips went to war in '79, and every set had to pick a side. The Hoovers rolled with the gangster Crips, calling themselves the Hoover Gangster Crips, but loyalty in LA? That's short-lived. The murder of Crips founder Raymond Washington in 1979 only made things messier, with the East Side Crips blaming the Hoovers, sparking a vicious feud. By the 80s, the Hoovers was deep in the game, drug houses, gun violence, and a rep for being the most unpredictable set in South Central. They started beefing with everybody, Bloods, Crips, even their old allies. If you was breathing in LA, you could catch smoke from the Hoovers. By the 90s, they cut ties with the Crips altogether, switched up their name to Hoover Criminals, and started repping anybody killer and everybody killer. That meant no one was safe, not even former friends. The Hoover story ain't just about one block. It's about a crew that went from a neighborhood clique to one of the most feared names in LA, with a legacy of chaos that spread from the West Side to cities like Seattle and Portland. In the City of Angels, the Hoovers made sure their name rang bells, and the madness they started still echoes through the streets today. See, the Hoovers ain't just another set. They call themselves EBK, Everybody Killer. That ain't just talk, that's a straight up warning to the whole city. When they say EBK, they mean it. Don't matter if you a Blood, a Crip, or even used to be an ally. From the 1980s on, the Hoovers was out here catching bodies and stacking up enemies like it was a game. Each new beef another notch on their belt. They didn't discriminate. Rolling 40s, 50s, 60s, Bloods, Brims, Main Street Crips, the list goes on. If you had a name in South Central, odds are you was on the Hoovers' radar. The old school street codes, all that went out the window. Where other sets might keep it in the family or respect old alliances, the Hoovers flipped the script. They wanted chaos, and they brought it. Drive-bys in broad daylight, shootouts at block parties, even targeting rivals at funerals. The city felt every minute of it, and the streets ran hot with tension. For the Hoovers, it wasn't about holding down just one corner. It was about sending a message. Nobody was untouchable. Their reputation for violence and unpredictability made them infamous, and even other gangs moved different when Hoovers was around. In LA, when you heard EBK, you knew the Hoovers was coming, and they wasn't leaving till they made their point. Let's talk about them wars, real street sagas that turned neighborhoods into battlegrounds. The beef between the Hoovers and the Rolling 60s? That's the stuff of LA legend. It wasn't just a couple of scuffles, this was all-out war. Shootouts in broad daylight, ambushes at intersections, and entire blocks locked down with nobody safe to step outside. The tension was so thick, even the cops knew better than to roll through certain hoods without backup. But the Rolling 60s wasn't the only set to feel the Hoovers' wrath. The Main Street Crips used to be tight with the Hoovers, same side, same hustle, even sharing corners and splitting profits. But all it took was one wild night, a party, an argument over a girl, and everything flipped. Words got heated, fists flew, and then the guns came out. Shots rang out, bodies dropped, and just like that, a new war was born. From that point on, every handshake turned into a stare down, Every block party, a potential shootout. The streets ain't never been the same since. And this violence, it don't care about age. Even the youngins got caught up in it, like Daquan Allen, just 13 years old, minding his business, but he got caught in the crossfire and lost his life. That's how deep these feuds run, innocent kids paying the price for grown men's grudges. But don't get it twisted, it ain't just about the violence in the headlines. For a lot of these dudes, the Hoovers was more than a gang. It was family, a brotherhood forged in struggle. For kids growing up with nothing but broken homes and empty fridges, the set was all they had. Moms and grandmas tried to pull them out, begging them to leave the streets behind, but the pull of loyalty, respect, and survival was stronger. In the Hoovers, loyalty is everything, and that loyalty, twisted as it might seem, made them infamous across LA. When you ride with the Hoovers, you ride for life, and everybody in the city knows it. Fast forward to today, and the Hoovers still run deep in LA's gangland. They didn't just stay one block, they multiplied, split into different sets, 52, 59, 74, 83, 94, 107, and 112 Hoovers, each one holding down their own slice of the city. Every set got its own reputation, its own soldiers, and its own beefs, but they all fly the same flag and keep the Hoover name alive. The old codes, that's history. Respect on the street is rare. And the new generation is even wilder. Youngsters out here with no fear, quick to pull triggers, and ready to make a name for themselves. Social media only turned up the heat, with rappers like Jap 5 from 107 Hoover putting the set on the map, spitting about life in the trenches, and making sure everybody knows where they from. But the drama don't stop for the cameras. Real-life beefs spill out at block parties, funerals, even on so-called hood days, when sets try to lay low and celebrate. Even then, the heat never really cools off, and the tension stays high. So what's the legacy? The Hoovers went from a small neighborhood crew to the most hated set in LA. No cap. They rock orange hats and Houston Astros logos, a symbol that's feared from LA all the way up to Seattle and even Portland. Their reputation for being everybody killer changed the game. Nobody else in the city went to war with as many sets, and nobody else made enemies out of both Crips and Bloods. Whether you see them as villains or survivors, one thing's for sure. In the City of Angels, the Hoovers made damn sure everybody remembers their name. Their story ain't over, and every day, a new chapter gets written on these blocks. That's the real, raw, and uncut, just how the streets tell it. If you rockin' with this savage history, don't just watch. Smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit subscribe so you never miss another street legend. We bringing you the truth, no sugarcoating, just the way you like it. Stay safe out there, keep your head on a swivel, and remember, in LA, it's always Hoovers versus everyone. Ain't nobody off limits, and the saga never stops. Tap in for more, cause we got plenty more street tales coming your way.